Well, let's start chapter 20 in Exodus, for Granny shares the Bible. It says, "And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." He brought them out of being slaves. "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." And it's little Gods. Which there is no other God but God. He's the only God. And of course the devil wants to masquerade as a God. He wants there to be other little gods in this world to try to get people distracted from seeking the true and the living God. But God asked and spoke and commanded that there be no other gods, have no other gods before him. And that's all kinds of things. It could be possessions, it could be other people, it could be talents, it could be any kind of thing that you see as something to worship before God. He is God. And he said, "Thou shalt have no other gods," little Gods, "before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments." You know, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children. That's what happens when children see their daddies hating God. They hate him. And that's what happens. The Lord just lets it happen. Lets it be that the children hate him, and it goes on and on and on into the fourth generation, that it's a family that just does not love God. And that's what he said, "I am a jealous God." He doesn't want us human beings to run after any other God or not love God, not love him. He wants us to love him. But if somebody makes up their mind, "I hate God, I don't have anything to do with him," then their generations are going to go down with their children doing the same thing. But look at verse 6. "And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments." You know, people that are saved, people that love God, still need his mercy. Not just for salvation. So maybe sometimes financial mercy, emotional mercy, where everything seems to be going wrong. And you cry out to God for mercy, where some things can start going right instead of going wrong. And he says, "Showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments." God knows how to take care of us. He knows how to take care of us when we do something unwise or just get in a mess. Have you ever gotten in a mess even though you were saved and you knew you were saved, but somehow everything kind of got out of order and you couldn't get it back in order? And that's when you need, even as a Christian, you need God's mercy. "Showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments." So go on loving God, even if everything's a mess. Go on loving him, because he knows how to show mercy. He knows how to cause the bad to turn out good. He does. We know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. So it'll work together for good, even if it's Seems like a big mess now. So I love that where it says he shows mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Verse 7 says, Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. You know, there's a lot of people, even Christians, that take the Lord's name in vain. I hear people saying OMG, or they'll write it on a comment, OMG. It's in caps, OMG. And it means, oh my God. And I'm just telling it. I'm not saying it myself. But people use that to make their speech strong. Or they use it to express surprise. Or they use it to express shock. But that is not what God's name is for. God's name is to be used to talk to him or to talk about him. God is wonderful. That's talking about him. God, I love you and I want to serve you. That's talking to him. And if you don't use his name talking about him or talking to him just to make your speech strong, that's taking his name in vain. Some people use the word damn on the end of God's name. God doesn't want that. It's not his will that any should perish. So if you curse somebody by saying that, you're using his name in vain. And there's so much that can be called using the Lord's name in vain. I've heard people say Jesus Christ when they see something happening that they are shocked about or don't want to happen or whatever. That is not what his name is for. His name, you can call on him, Jesus Christ, help me. Or you can talk about him, Jesus Christ is wonderful. But if you use his name to make a strong expression, that's taking his name in vain. And God said, when you do any of those things, he will not hold you guiltless that taketh his name in vain. No matter how saved you are, you're going to have to give an account. He said, for every idle word we speak. And that's using his name idly. It's not to him and it's not about him. You know, if somebody went around and said, oh, Granny, they weren't talking to me. Oh, Linda, whenever they saw something that shocked them, I wouldn't like that, would you? If it was your name? And that's what it is about God's. And you know what? When we call on God, we want him to hear us. But if we are always speaking his name and not calling on him, can you imagine him? Oh, they're calling on me and listening, and it's just them using his name. It's not talking to him, not talking about him. After a while, he knows. He knows that you're just using his name. And you're not really talking to him or not talking about him. And so he said he wouldn't hold you guiltless. When we have comments on our songs and things, and it starts out with OMG, it's hard for me to say I like it because I don't. I don't like it. And I want to say, don't do that. Don't do that. Because you don't want God to hold you guilty. That's the opposite of guiltless. Okay, verse 8 says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And of course, God rested the seventh day after he created the earth in 6 days and everything in it. 6 days, all of us. Man, Adam and Eve. Adam, actually. He created all of that in 6 days. And he rested on the Sabbath day. And he said, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. As in it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Now, keeping the Sabbath is one of the commandments that is very hard to do. And I have learned from my experience as a pastor, as a Christian, I have learned that, first of all, we keep Sunday as a day of rest, and it is the Lord's day. The Sabbath is still Saturday, but because we get prepared for Sunday on Saturday, we can't really say it was a day of rest if you're a minister. It's not really a day of rest. So my belief about keeping the Sabbath day, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, is I try to live my life keeping every day holy. I try to do that. Jesus said the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. Jesus wanted us to be able to have a rest day, a day where we could rest. And I do take a day to rest. And it is usually not on Saturday because I have to get ready for church on Saturday for Sunday. So it's usually not on Saturday. So I'm not saying that that I don't keep the Sabbath. I do, because I live holy on that day too. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. I'll try to keep it holy. Keep my whole life holy if I can. But God rested on Saturday. But then when the Lord's Day came around, the Lord's Day is Sunday because that's the day the Lord rose from the dead. And in the book of Acts, it talks about them meeting together on the Lord's Day. So at the end of all of our weeks, or the end and the beginning, the seventh day, if we keep that day, if we keep Sunday, then we have 2 days we have to keep. And it doesn't work to do that. With me, it doesn't, especially when you're getting ready for ministering on Sunday. So that's what I have learned to do, and I feel like that though I am not keeping the letter of the law, that what Jesus said, that the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath, made me understand that God wanted me to have a day of rest. And I take that day of rest. Verse 12 says, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. This is what it talks about, the commandment with promise, that if we do honor our father and our mother, that we will have long life, that it will be something that we're promised, a long life, if we honor our father and our mother. And it is something that the older you get, when you're a teenager, you're not usually very good at honoring your father and your mother. You should be. Oh, to have teenagers that would say, oh, I've got to honor my father and my mother. No matter what I think, I got to do it right. I want to get through my teenage years honoring my father and my mother. Not many do that. I didn't. So, but as you get older and you realize that your father and your mother are dear to you, and you want to honor them, and you want to be good to them, then it's a good thing to remember that God said to do that, to honor your father and your mother. And when they get old, you know, sometimes as I get older and maybe not as able as I once was, then perhaps it's harder for a grown daughter or grown grandchildren to honor me as their mother or as their grandmother. But this is what God promised, that if you do, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Verse 13 says, thou shalt not kill. Oh my, how that is so full of things to talk about. Because as we read on into, well, we already read about them fighting Amalek and how God wants Amalek destroyed. That's killing. And we know about wars. That's killing. And that sometimes you have to fight in wars because what's at stake. But I believe that what God was not so much talking about wars here or things like that where you had to fight as an army or fight for freedom, fight those kind of battles. I believe he was really just speaking to the individual. That just because you don't like what somebody's doing, or maybe they've done something to make you hate them, thou shalt not kill. It's not going to be good for you, even if you get rid of them, because you'll never get rid of them. If you kill them, you're always known as the one that killed them. So you'll never get rid of them. You'll never be away from them. The best thing is to just leave them alone and let them go their way, even if they've done you horribly wrong. That way you're loose. And so God said, thou shalt not kill. Don't ever take killing as a solution. It is not. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Adultery, it means that you are being sexually with a man or a woman that you are not married to. And you are married to somebody, but you're going out with somebody else and being with them as if you were married to them. Thou shalt not commit adultery. God specifies in the Bible, in the New Testament, Jesus specifies in the Bible what adultery is, what causes a person to commit adultery. He talks about if you put away your husband or your wife and then go marry someone else, and you didn't do it because they went out on you, that you're causing them to commit adultery, and you're committing adultery. So adultery is a word for, it sounds like adultery. I think I'm going to stop there, and we're going to go back. We'll go talk about this one tomorrow. There's a lot to talk about in it, and I'm getting close to the time. So let's start again on 14 tomorrow, okay? All right, I'll see you then. God bless you.